I am your, hold on, let me fix my volume. Let me just get this volume. I am your author and coach, Nadira Lewis. And hold on, let me fix this. Hold on. Can you hear me now? Okay, let's see, hold on. I'm gonna try to fix this this mic over here. Okay, so that's good. Okay, let's see what's happening. All righty, I am your host, Nadira Lewis, and it is Friday. So let me fix my microphone over here because my microphone is double talking. So give me 1 second. Okay, let's see if that'll make a difference. Bear with me 1 moment. Okay, so I'm having a little feedback. So bear with me 1 moment. Let's see. Just give me 1 second. Lower some of the feedback so we can get going. Bear with me 1 moment.
Talking a little bit.
Let me see something. Okay, let's see. Mute my mic a little bit. Hopefully it'll. Let's see where this feedback is coming from. Just bear with me 1 second, guys. Okay, give me 1 second. See if we can get this volume. Okay, let's see. Okay. Yay! We got it all fixed and situated. Welcome to Sisterhood Check-In, guys. I am your host, Nadira Lewis, and it is Friday. And I'm excited because I have some really, I have some things I want to kind of share and talk about. If you can hear me, if you can hear me, make sure you put a 1 in the chat and let me know that you can hear me okay. For some apparent reason, it just keeps flowing pretty much. But we're going to take a minute and I'm going to just pray and invite God into this broadcast so that we can be able to have a successful broadcast. Thank you guys so much for watching. Father God, we just thank you right now in the name of Jesus. Thank you for being present with me here in this broadcast. But most of all, Father, I thank you for being the ever-present help, Father. Father, I pray that everybody that's watching this broadcast will be blessed, informed, and changed. I pray, God, most of all, that even in the midst of everything that I'm desiring in this broadcast, I pray most of all that you get the glory and that you be magnified in the midst of this broadcast. We thank you in advance and give you all the glory in Jesus' name. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video real quick. And then once I play this video, we will be right back. And we are going to have an amazing topic today, guys. So I cannot wait for you guys to actually chime in because this is going to be an interesting topic. So I'll see you when we get back. I'll be right back after this. Make sure you call up your girlfriends and tell them Sisterhood Check-In is on the air. If you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button. hit the notification button so that you can be notified every time we upload a video. If you are watching us on Facebook and Twitter, make sure that you hit the like and share button if you're blessed by the content that you're receiving. So we'll be right back after this.
What name could contain such a glory? In the cool breezes of Eden, wrought from the infant earth, one arose, the voice of his creator speaking his identity to life. Adam, man. And as heaven waited short with bread, the creator spoke yet another, Eve, mother of all the living. So it was with Abraham, named in the promise as the father of nations, Peter, the rock upon which the church would stand. The name called to life the destiny within. The name set the stage for all that was to come. And unto us a child was born. And what name could contain his glory? For he was mighty God, as the universe gasped into being, flinging rays of light from his presence to pierce the void, to shatter the shadows to a tapestry of color. And he is mighty God, shattering our darkness, revealing our light, our truth in him. He was everlasting Father when orphaned Israel needed a father's touch. When we, with grief-stricken cheeks, need the embrace of one who never leaves. When we have lost our way to dark horizons, it is our everlasting Father who lights the way home. He is Prince of Peace. When, like Elijah, we need the still small voice in the turmoil's midst. When, like David, we need the melodies of his presence to soothe our troubled minds. He is sanctuary within our trials, shepherd guiding us to still waters. And yes, he is wonderful counselor, God who gives counsel in the chaos, crafting disorder into calm and failure into beauty. He is a voice for the voiceless. He is dignity for the stateless soul. It is he who raised up a lowly shepherd to become a king. He who took the fishermen of Galilee and made them leaders of history. It is the counselor who redeems our lost years, breaking chains that have kept dreams imprisoned and joy confined. The name reaches across eternity, exclaimed by the splendors of galaxies, sung by the passions of angels, roared in heaven's fervor, exalted in creation's unfettered rejoicing. What name could contain him? What title? What soul renown? For this is our wonderful counselor. This is our mighty God. This is our everlasting Father, our Prince of Peace. What name could contain Emmanuel, God with us, Yahweh, the great I am? What name could contain the Word of life, the light of the world, the King of kings, the Lord of all? We bow to the name that holds every other in its matchless worth. What name could contain such a glory? What name but Jesus? We cry Jesus. We cry holy is the name. We cry Jesus. We cry holy is the name.
All righty. Welcome back to Sisterhood Check-In. Again, if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, so that you can be notified every time we upload a new video. If you are watching us on Facebook or Twitter or any of the other platforms, make sure you hit the share button and share with somebody that you know that this message can actually help somebody with. So thank you guys so much again for watching. I'm just getting my stuff situated so we can go ahead and continue with the broadcast. Today, guys, I have an amazing topic that I really want to talk about, and it is talking about low self-esteem actually affects your life. So I'm going to go ahead and let me just give me a few minutes just to pull this up, and we're going to get into this today. I have been meditating on some things for the past couple of days, and I'm really excited to kind of share with you some of the things that I have been learning. And so I want to go ahead and share this with you because it's amazing how some things that whether it's a song or a conversation, sometimes I notice that when I'm having conversation with different people, certain things just stir up on the inside of me, and we wind up talking about things that wind up being a subject on Sisterhood Check-In. So I wanted to kind of talk today about how low self-esteem affects your every area of your life. It affects your relationships. It affects your business. It even affects how you even see yourself, right? And when you see yourself a certain way, most of the time it's because you're looking at it through the eyes of somebody else and you're not looking at yourself the way God sees you. And when you don't see yourself the way God sees you, then what happens is you build a perspective based on what somebody else thinks about you or doesn't think about you. So I'm going to pull up some information and we're going to get into this. So let's talk about low self-esteem. So low self-esteem, I'm going to give you some examples, right? Or some common ways that low self-esteem can affect you, right? Number one, it can affect your emotional well-being, right? It can affect your emotional well-being. And you might be thinking, well, that's obvious, right? But sometimes you have to be really basic to kind of get people to understand and see, because sometimes when you hear it, when you say it or you hear it, it's just a lot different. Sometimes you just have to really hear it over and over again to really grasp it and to really understand the impact of what I'm actually saying. So it affects your emotional well-being, right? It'll cause you to have a negative self-image and believe that you are unworthy or incapable, leading to a general sense of unhappiness. You ever had some feelings where you ever had some days where you just feel like, dang, I just don't feel worthy, or I just feel I'm just not happy today. Or you might have you might have been in the midst of something or done something and been in a group of people and might have felt like, dang, I'm not, comparing yourself to somebody else and might be thinking, man, dang, I'm not as good as them when it comes to certain things, or man, they're really good at that. And man, I just feel like, man, I'm just sad because my life is not lining up the way their life is lining up, or my family or my business is not lining up the way their family or business is lining up, right? So your emotional well-being, you're up and down. 1 minute you're excited, 1 minute you're down, and it's all based on a negative self-image and belief that you are unworthy and incapable, and leading to a sense of unhappiness. And I'm not talking about occasional unhappiness, because sometimes there are circumstances in life that that make us feel unhappy. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having a sense of feeling of unworthiness, a sense of feeling like, oh man, I failed in this area of my life. So you start to look at the things that you've gone through as a way to produce a negative self-image about yourself, right? How it affects your relationships, right? Low self-esteem can negatively affect your relationship with others, right? You can have difficulty asserting yourself, setting boundaries, or expressing your needs and desires. How many times have you been in relationships with people, right? And people felt the need to you kind of know, you may not verbalize it, but you can sense that that person is taking advantage of you, right? You can sense that that person, because you don't have any boundaries in place, right? Boundaries are there to protect you, right? Boundaries are there to set expectations for whoever it is that wants to be a part of your life. It sets expectations and let them know just how far you're willing to go or willing to accept is that you're saying, right? So You'll have difficulty when you have low self-esteem. You have difficulty saying no. You have difficulty. It's almost like feeling like a people pleaser, like feeling like you can't tell people when your limit is, right? When you're exhausted. So when you don't have the courage, right, to tell somebody what your limit is, and you don't have the courage to put a boundary around your mind, around your heart, right, around your body, then what happens is it'll affect, and then it'll give people like a free card to say, oh, I could just take care of her. I could just take advantage of her. She don't even know the difference, right? I was watching this, I was listening to this guy. He's a relationship coach. And he said something that was so powerful. I was listening to him on TikTok, and he was saying how even in relationship, how even sometimes men can smell. They have a sense of smell. They can tell when you're bleeding. They can tell when you don't have any boundaries in your life, right? Because the way they approach you is different, right? When you have boundaries in your life, even the people and how they approach you is differently, right? They don't just run up on you, hey, hey, excuse, psst, 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 because boundaries create a certain, not only does it create a wall, or not necessarily a wall, but set a standard around who you are, but it also gives off a different sense. So people are maybe a little bit leery to just approach you, because they realize, okay, I can see boundaries are both physical and invisible, right? When you carry a visible boundary, right, around your mind, around your heart, and around your body, you display a certain demeanor, a certain attitude, a certain look. You give off a certain aura that when people come in contact with you, they be like, oh, yeah, I can't mess with it. I can't just come up on her any kind of way. I've had situations where I've been in the midst of people, and somebody can be like an extreme cursor, and they can be like, da, 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 F this and F that. But sometimes when they get in the midst of you, because you have boundaries around who you are, and sometimes I don't even say anything. Sometimes I'm just sitting there and I'm just being who I am, just being fully aware of my self-worth, and fully aware of who I am. Sometimes people just come up and be like, oh man, I didn't even mean to say that in front of you. I didn't even mean, I tell them I have a boundary? No, it's just that my physical boundaries were set up invisibly and physically, so they automatically knew, oh man, there was a presence, there was an aura that made them say, you know what, I can't really talk like that around, I can't really just say anything around her. Because when you create those boundaries, it creates a standard, right? And you teach people how you expect to be treated, right? Unhealthy when it comes to relationship, low self-esteem can result in unhealthy relationship dynamics, as you may tolerate mistreatment or feel unable to maintain healthy connections. And this is huge, because when you're in a relationship, when you're in a toxic relationship and you don't have boundaries, most of the time you're in a toxic relationship because you have not set boundaries, right? And there's a difference between compromise between compromise and settling, right? When you compromise, that means two people come together, right? And you make a decision that this is how we're going to operate or function in our relationship. Settling just means that you just decide, okay, you know what, I'm gonna take everything that makes up who I am, my values, my morals, and I'm going to lower them just to be in a situationship with this person, because that's really what it is. You're in a situationship, right? Which means you have not set any boundaries. You have not let the other person know exactly what your expectations are. So when you settle, what happens is you reduce your boundaries to the point to where that person can basically just step over it like a fence. Like they could just walk into your garden and walk into your yard and basically do whatever they want to do, right? Because you settled. So there's a difference between settling and compromise. And once you understand the difference of that, how you approach your relationships will be definitely different, right? Self-esteem also affects your performance and achievements, right? When you have low self-esteem, you may doubt your abilities and be afraid of failure. How many times have you yourself, or you've been around people where they feel like they can never They feel like they've done one thing wrong, and all of a sudden their whole perspective about their life is, I'm just not good enough, or I'm just not this, or I just can't do this, because of one experience where they were unable to function in that experience, whether because they don't have the skill set, or it could have just been they just, may have fumbled or whatever. But sometimes when you have low self-esteem, what happens is you begin to take that isolated event and begin to build a perspective and point towards yourself as being unworthy or incapable of fulfilling a particular task or duty, right? It can also hinder your motivation and prevent you from pursuing your goals and taking risks, right? And you might be thinking, well, I might have little situations where I see myself a certain way, but it doesn't affect me. It can, because when you start to see yourself stagnated in certain areas when it comes to operating, in a particular event or whatever it is that you're planning, right? Because it could be different. This is not isolated to just one thing. When you find yourself saying, I want to do this, I want to do that, and then all of a sudden you're not following through, right, on the things that you need to accomplish to actually meet that goal, right? Or you might feel like, you might, like me, I'm a risk taker. Like, I love to get out here and take risks, right? I'll get out here, a calculated risk. I need to say that, calculated risk. I can get out there and I'll just do it. And because I just have the mindset that if I feel like I'm capable of doing it, and I feel like, you know what, I can get out there and do it. And if I fail, I fail. At least I tried. That's sort of like my mindset. If I feel like I'm capable, if I have the courage to do it, and I feel like it's within my means of skill set, I'm going to take the risk and do it. But with low self-esteem starts to look inward, right? And start to look at yourself as feeling like you're incapable of doing that particular thing that you may want to do, or taking the risk, because you're looking at the fact that, oh my gosh, I can't do it because I failed at this event, or I failed at this. I had to tell somebody one time, when it came, a family member one time, when it came to my son, and my son did do something right, but in his mind he was just thinking, I did it, and that particular person said, you never do anything right, you never do. And I had to stop them and say, no, it's not that he doesn't do everything right, he may not have done this right, but that's okay, because he is still learning. And you've got to stop people from speaking negative things over you. So what, you may have not gotten that right. So what, we are all still growing. None of us are above reproach, right? None of us are above correction. And when you find that you are not doing well in a particular area of your life, don't look inward and begin to condemn yourself, because what'll happen is you'll build a hole internally, right? And you'll start to bury your emotions. You'll start to bury everything on the inside of that hole, and then it'll be like climbing a volcano, trying to get out, all over one thing that you may have done that may have not been right or correct. So consequently, your performance and achievement varies in your performance and achievement in various areas of life, like academics, career, personal endeavors, is also negatively affected if your boss corrects you, right? And basically what I'm just saying is that everything that, whether it's through feedback or whether it's through your own mind, your thoughts, you begin to look inwardly, right? And begin to see yourself as, as unworthy, unfit to be able to do whatever it is that you want to do. Those are some of the impacts of having a low self-esteem, right? Also, it can affect your decision making, right? When you have low self-esteem, it's challenging to kind of make decisions, right, confidently. You may teeter and tatter with, inconsistent in being able to, to be able to decide something. You might say, well, I want to go over here and I want to do this, but then you start thinking, your mind starts getting filled up with all these inward negative things that make you feel like, you know what, I don't know if I want to go over here. But your decision to not go over here or to be a part of this particular community or group is fear-based, right? Low self-esteem is fear-based, right? You are afraid to show up as who you are because you're afraid that you're not going to show up the way you want to see yourself show up. Let me tell you, when I first started doing like lives and doing this, I was the type, and I'm still like that. I like behind the scenes conversations. I am my most effective, I feel, when I'm behind the scenes having one-on-one conversations and group conversations. I really show up differently. But sometimes when you're going live and you got people that are watching you, the concern of what people going to think, is my hair right? Is my makeup right? Am I going to say my words right? What happens is, when I started to look inwardly and I started to realize, like, wait a minute, I started to carry this weight, and I would get this anxiety, right, before I go live, because I was afraid, and knowing that behind the scenes, I'm fully capable of doing whatever it is that God called me to do, right? But what happens is my mind and the fear will make me feel like, oh, you can't do it. And then it starts lying. And then all of a sudden, all kinds of stuff start lining up in my head on why I'm not able to do it. And I had to get past that. It took me a year. And still, when I'm getting ready to do a broadcast, I still have challenges. I go through, I produce the broadcast by myself. So sometimes I have audio issues. Sometimes I have video issues. But the thing about it is, you gotta keep going, because the more I started to see myself as capable, right, the more my confidence level increased it, then my confidence level increased it, right? So now I realize, okay, you know what? If there's a particular area in my life or in my business that I need more skill set in, I'm on it, right? I'm working on it. I'm doing it. But that's not the issue. Most of the time, it's not the skill set that really causes us. Most of the time, it's our negative self-image, right? It's how we see ourselves, not how we see ourselves through what we think other people see us as, right? So if we feel like a one, especially if you're around somebody that is healthy, right, eat right, and you see them eating right, you feel guilty because now you over here eating this piece of chicken, right, and you looking at them over here eating a salad, and you're like, dang. You start to create a negative self-image about yourself, and you start to feel like, man, I'm sloppy, I'm fat, I'm unhealthy, I'm this. Because that's what happens once you turn your emotions inwardly and you start to look at yourself as this, as this negative person, as this, whatever the thoughts are based on whatever it is that you're dealing with, then you'll start seeing yourself that way. Now, when you get dressed, now you're looking at yourself and you start feeling fat. Now you might see this person, they might be in shape. They might have their body might be intact. They might have a six pack. And then you over here looking at yourself like, dang, I'm over here eating chicken. Now you feel like a fat pig, right? Because you have turned your emotions inwardly and built a self-image of yourself based on what you think the other person is thinking about you. And you'd be surprised that half the time people aren't even thinking half the stuff that you're even concerned about. I spent so much time being afraid of really showing up, right? Of who I am. Because behind the scenes, I'm like, I'm lit, y'all. Behind the scenes, I'm a whole vibe, right? But sometimes I remember being a point where I would get in the midst of certain people and the intimidation would come because I would look at who they are in their position, whether it's in business or whether it's in ministry. And then I would think, oh, I can't do it like this. Well, the goal is not to do it like this, right? The goal is to do it the way God has shown you to do it, right? Because God has a certain amount of people aligned up, ready to hear what it is that you have to say, what your experiences bring to their life, right? Just like he has a group of people lined up for them to be able to hear what they have to say, to hear their experiences and their wisdom that has taken place in their life, right? So, what's next? So, we're talking about things that affect, that low self-esteem affects. So we talked about your emotional well-being, right? We talked about how it can lead to persistent feelings of sadness, anxiety, and unworthiness, right? Also, it affects your relationships, right? Low self-esteem negatively impacts your relationship with others, and sometimes you'll have a difficulty asserting, right, yourself by setting boundaries and expressing your needs and desires, right? Number 3, performance and achievement. Low self-esteem can affect how you show up, right? How you show up in your family. It can show up in how you how you perform in your business, how you show up at your job, your performance at your job. It can negatively affect your performance, right? Then we also talked about number 4, decision making, right? It affects your decision making, which means you will have challenges being confident when it comes to an area of your life where you want to make a decision, right? And not only am I going to tell you about how this affects, but we're going to talk about some things that you can do, right? We're going to talk about some things that you can do after we go through this in the next segment on how you can get past this, right? It also affects your mental health, right? Low self-esteem is closely linked to mental health issues like depression and anxiety, right? Negative self-talk and self-critical thoughts can exacerbate these conditions, leading to a downward spiral of negative emotions and behaviors. So, low self-esteem can also affect your mental health because it's negative self-talk. It's how you're speaking to yourself, whether you're verbalizing it or whether you're thinking it. If it's a message that you are sending directly to yourself inwardly, right? Or whether it's a thought or whether you're expressing it, it will affect your emotions and your behaviors, because you'll think, like I gave the example with another person who might be a healthy eater, and you may not be a healthy eater, but may be aspiring to be a healthy eater. But you might see this person over here eating healthy, and you might think, oh, they just, I'm just fat. And all of a sudden that's that negative self-talk. You start to think, well, they're a better speaker than I am. So you know what? You start talking to yourself and you start feeling like, I'm not capable of doing that. You see somebody else who runs their business, may have the same type of business that you, and they may run their business a little bit better than you. And you start to speak negatively to yourself and think, well, you know what? I don't do my business like the way theirs is. Theirs is better. Or you begin to see people as better than or less than, instead of looking at the fact that everything that you do regarding your business is based on what God has given you, what God has placed on the inside of you, right? You also, another way that low self-esteem affects, right, your low self-esteem affects your body image, right, and your self-care, right? Low self-esteem manifests in dissatisfaction with one's body image, right? How many of y'all have gone through that moment where you felt like your body is not shaped like somebody else's body, or you start to feel like, you know what, I'm short and she's tall, and everybody, I'm having problems with walking out the house because I have short feet and they may have long feet, or they may be light skinned and I'm dark skinned, right? It's crazy the things that we say to ourselves based on, I remember one time when I was really battling low self-esteem, and I was looking at even skin complexion and looking at the type of skin. And some things I wouldn't even verbalize and I know, don't be looking at me like, oh, I don't do that, because we all have done it. We have all looked at somebody else, whether it was their skin, their height, and said in our head, whether we said it internally or whether we verbally expressed it, where we looked at them and saw them being either better or less than. We all have been through that point, right? So one of the things that I realized is that I had to start accepting my body for what it was, right? I know that I'm 5'1", and I know that, and I always say I'm not short. The Lord has allowed only a little bit of me to be manifested in the earth realm, and you have to go in the spirit to see the rest. I always say that, but the reality is that I had to develop confidence in my body just the way it was. I would see people and they were getting these BBLs and their body looked like perfect. Like you look on TikTok and Instagram, you're like, dang, their body look banging. And I had to realize that, yeah, you can go down that same road, and you can spend all this money on trying to make yourself look a certain way to be appealing to who? To be appealing to somebody who probably ain't even gonna put that much emphasis on it as you do. And I had to find the beauty. In what made up who I am, right? Which is why I told y'all I had did a thing, and I had to figure out what are the things that make up the qualities of who I am, what makes me different from somebody else, not better than or less than, but what makes me different. And why I wanted to know that is so that I can be able to use those as affirmations whenever I'm faced, right, with those insecurities of how I'm not good enough or not worthy enough when I'm in the midst of different things, because my lane that God has me in is specifically cut out for me. That means I am a perfect fit for the destiny that God has for me, right? Low self-esteem can impact also your motivation to practice self-care, right? Leading to neglect of physical and mental well-being. Last week, I have been doing this thing, hashtag be good to myself. And I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to the spa, right? I'm going to the spa and I'm going to be good to myself, right? And I realized that when I carve out time, because we can fill our day up with all kind of stuff. When I carve out time for me, right? I realized that I had to say to myself, you deserve this. You deserve this. You deserve to have some time to be good to yourself. So I did. I took a day and I spent the whole day at Jeju. And I came out and I felt amazing. It increased my ability to see myself as worthy of being able to have rest, right? Because sometimes when you work all the time, I don't know, it seems like modern day women, we find like, especially depending on what state you're coming from, what city you come from, you tend to feel like you just got to do it. You got to do everything and you got to go and do. And what happens is your body starts to burn out. You start to age, you start to get stressed. And our bodies were not meant to carry stress the way we are carrying stress in today's modern world, because we are always looking to do the next and be the next best thing instead of slowing down and operating in the area and in the lane that God has called us to, because he's graced us for that thing, right? And we are equipped to function the way he created us to function. I heard Pastor Keon say one day, I was watching TikTok, and he was saying how, because we in a culture where everything, when he was talking about patience, and he was saying how patience is a structure and how God had things set up a certain way. But what happened is when we couldn't get to one place quick enough, then what did we do? We built a plane, right, to get there faster. When we didn't no longer want to wait to cook our food, then we built a microwave so that we could hurry up and cook our food fast, right? And I thought about that and I was like, wow. And then he mentioned about Abraham and Sarah and Hagar and Ishmael. And he said, when we wanted to be impatient and not wait on God in our relationships, he said, then we created an open door for Hagar for Ishmael to be in our life. And sometimes that's what happens when we have low self-esteem. And this is something I was just pondering on today, which led me to even talk about this, is when we're impatient with the process that God has for us, we wind up accepting anything, right? And even though we may say, oh, no, I have standards, I have this and that, what happens is our inability to wait on God, right? Because of how we see ourselves, right? We want to take matters into our own hand, right? And we start to do things because we don't like to wait, right? Because we're in a have it your way culture, right? We don't like to wait, right? Last but not least, right? Low self-esteem affects it affects your belief system. And last week I was talking about belief system. And then if you watched me on Dinner with the Coaches with visionary coach Thomas Taylor, he talks a lot about limiting belief system. It actually affects low self-esteem. Often causes you to feel like your potential and your worth, you're not able to like develop, to the full potential of what you can do, right? Because you feel like again, you're looking inwardly. Something just went up my nose. Excuse me. I gotta get something. Something just went up my nose. It was like a mosquito or something. Excuse me, guys. So, okay. So what happens is these belief systems can hold you back from like pursuing opportunities and exploring new experiences. And what do I mean by that? Meaning that somebody can come up to you and say, hey man, I have an opportunity that I want to share with you that's going to help your life, your business. And because you're looking at your inability to function in a certain way, it affects how you pursue that particular opportunity. Some people won't even do it because they're fearful they're not going to be good enough. They're fearful they're not going to be impactful. They're fearful that they're not going to probably make as much money as this person. They're fearful that they may not be as good, right? So it affects your belief system. You begin to, again, turn your negative emotions inwardly, right? Because your emotions are inwardly, right? You start to tell yourself that you're incapable, right? Verbally or internally. You start to say that, you start to think, that you're not good enough to accomplish whatever it is that you feel like that you desire to do. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a quick break, and I'm going to clean up this mosquito that just flew up my nose. And when I come back, we're going to go over how to get through. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. We're going to talk about image, right? Because your self-image affects, right, how you see yourself. In your self-image affects how you see all of those things that we discussed. And we're going to go into scripture and see how God how he in the beginning and was intentional about how our image, how we're made in the image and the likeness of God. And I'm going to give you some key points on how you can overcome some of these limiting beliefs, inability to make decisions, your mental health, your body image. I'm going to show you how to perform better, how to achieve some of the goals that you may want to achieve in your life and in your business. I'm going to talk about how you can have a better relationship and how you can increase your emotional well-being. We'll be right back. I'll see you guys. Make sure you go get your coffees. Call up your girlfriends and tell them Sisterhood Check-In is on the air, and engage. Put it in the comments. Let me know where you're watching from, and engage with me and let me know what are some areas in your life that you have challenges with when you have dealt with or is dealing with low self-esteem. We'll be right back after this.
May not be physically with you.
They're in your church.
But I am sitting next to you.
Different face.
Different name.
Same story, though, that goes like this.
I've done some terrible things in my life.
Some of them I chose to do.
And I own these choices.
But others, I just feel like I was swept up in a series
of circumstances that didn't involve my will.
They just sort of happened to me.
I've become the culmination of those choices and circumstances.
So I guess I just need to say it.
I really
need some help.
Hello, my name is Thomas Taylor III, CEO of TaylorYourDreams.com. I actually help individuals expand their vision past their current reality so they can live the life that they dreamed of. If that's you, you can reach out, you can hit me up, and actually have a free consultation. But until then, go ahead and make it a great day.
Hi, I'm Nadira, author, life, and business coach, and founder of the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs Wisdom Academy, and also the founder of the Sisterhood Check-In podcast. I help women take their life experiences and turn them into life lessons for others. Book a call with me at www.womanofproverbscoaching.com, and I'll see you on the other side. Have an amazing day. True healing starts from the inside out. Download our free digital ebook, 31 Days of Becoming, at www.womanofproverbs.com. True healing starts from the inside. All right, and we are back here on Sisterhood Check-In. Thank you guys so much for watching. Those that are watching live and that will watch on the replay. I wanted to also let you guys know, if you guys want my free 31 Days of Becoming affirmation ebook, make sure you go to the website at www.womanofproverbs.com. womanofproverbs.com, and actually you can actually get, and there it is, there's a website at the bottom. You can actually download it for free. It is a digital affirmation ebook. Again, is the website is at the bottom, so make sure you go down and visit the website, sign up, and get the 31 days of affirmation. And let's all do better at making sure we maintain our mental perspective of how we see ourselves. Because let me tell you something, as long as you are in the world, you are always going to have other people that are going to be building perspectives about you. You don't need the added the added problems of you speaking negatively to yourself. So there are ways that you can actually get past the negative self-talk, because one thing I realized, it doesn't matter what other people scream about you, it's what you whisper to yourself that matters. Because at the end of the day, you're going to always be with you, right? You're always going to be stuck with you. So it's not going to matter what a person thinks or what they feel, because at the end of the day, whatever information that is going in your head and going through your mind, you have to accept it, right? You have to accept it as true. And when you accept it as true, it becomes a part of your mental ability. It becomes a part of your mental state of being, right? So when you begin to see yourself as capable and well equipped to do whatever it is that God called you to do, you begin to function that way, right? When you truly believe that. All right. It's important to note that low self-esteem, right, it's not a permanent condition. It can improve with self-reflection, self-compassion, therapy, and supportive relationships. Developing a positive self-image and building confidence are essential steps towards leading a happier and more fulfilling life. The more you begin to see yourself the way God created you, the happier you will actually be, right? You'll be a lot happier when you realize that you are made in the image and the likeness of God. You will be amazed at how much of a happier person you'll be, right? Because when you see yourself as God sees you, right? He sees you as you are, right? As the person that he created, right? He doesn't see you as the things that you've done. He sees you for who he's created you to be, right? And the more we are aware of that and the more we internalize that, then what happens is we'll show up differently, right? When I started to believe the things that God said about me, it changed how I view myself, because I was one of those people that had severely low self-esteem. I could be positive and I could have a high self-esteem, and the minute you think something negative about me, it would just take my esteem all the way down to the floor. And I had to really internalize and grasp the reality that of who I am, right? Who I am in my in my totality, right? So that I can be able to vision that and picture that in front of me and work towards the mindset to fully believe it. And then once I started to fully embrace it, it affected how I saw myself. It affected how I treated myself, right? Because I realized I'm made in the image and the likeness of God, right? In Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, it said, God created man in his image, and in the image of God, he created them, right? God created us in his image, right? So the only perspective that matters about who you are and how you see yourself is how God sees. That's your foundation, right? When you realize that God sees you, right? His thoughts about you are good and not evil, thoughts to prosper you, right? When you really internalize that, you show up differently, right? It's one thing to know it in your head. It's another thing to process it and internalize it, right? Um, Colossians 1:15 says, the son of the image of the invisible God, right? The son is the image of the invisible God, right? So if Jesus is the image of the invisible God, and we're made in his image, right? And in his likeness, that means we have the ability to function the way that's why we, when you look at people, we like, you notice that a dog don't look like us, right? A dog is not made in the image of God, right? He's not a dog, right? We are the only ones that are made in his image and in his likeness, right? So knowing that will help you, I'd be able to see, yeah, I may see certain things that are going on. I might see that I can be better in a particular area of my life, but that's the thing. I see, right? You got to see it first. It doesn't matter. You got some people who are, when you look at, I was watching this TikTok video, and this man, he was living in an apartment, right? And he had a wheelchair. And this man was going up and down the stairs on a fire escape. And this apartment had to be up north somewhere, because that's the only place I know of where people are going up and down fire escapes, right? And he was in the wheelchair, and he was going, and he had, I guess, developed some sort of way to go down the wheelchair, go down those stairs by turning the wheelchair backwards and then going back up. And I thought to myself, that takes an incredible amount of mental strength to be able to go, and physical, of course, to be able to push yourself up and down the stairs, right? Up and down the stairs with your wheelchair. That takes an incredible amount of strength, right? Physically. But in order for that to take place physically, he had to convince himself in his mind, right? Because this is where the battle is, right? This is the battle. This is the ground where we're fighting, how, if we're able to do or overcome or get through. It's always in our mind. So when we keep our mind, the Bible says he will keep your mind in perfect peace when your mind is stayed on him, right? When we begin to focus on who God is, when we focus on who he is, right? Because the Bible said he that cometh to God must first believe that he is, right? So you can't focus on who he is until you know who he is, right? And the way you know who he is you have an encounter with the Lord, and you read the word to study and see what is he like. It's almost like with your kids, right? Your kids are made in your image, right? Your kids look like you, right? They're made in your image and in your likeness, right? That's why they can look at you and you can look at them and see yourself in them, and they're mesmerized because they're learning things about themselves that they see in you, right? They look at themselves and be like, oh, wow, I noticed that I do this just like you, right? I noticed that when I walk a certain way, I walk just like you. I notice when I eat my food a certain way, I eat just like you, right? It is the same way when it comes to our relationship with God. We have to see ourselves like him. See ourselves being made in his image and in his likeness. See ourselves as being able to do whatever it is that he's called us to do, because he's given us the ability and the capability to do it. He wouldn't have put it in us, right, if he wasn't sure or felt like we are capable of fulfilling it, right? But he put it in you because he know that when he put it in you, you were fully capable of doing whatever it is that he called you to do, right? 2 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 4. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. I'm going to say that again. The God of this age has blinded the minds of unbelievers so that they cannot see the light of the gospel that displays the glory of God, who is the image of God. Don't you know, being made in the image and the likeness of God, when you begin to see yourself other than what he created you to be, you take away from the glory of Christ in your life, right? Because you're made in the image and the likeness of God. When you don't see yourself the way God created you, you take away from the glory of God in your life, right? Here, the Apostle Paul speaks of Christ as the image of God, emphasizing that the knowledge of God is revealed through Jesus and the gospel, right? The more you begin to become aware of who God really is and who Jesus is, you begin to see, David said, daily he loads me with his benefits. I say that every day. Ever since I hurt my ankle, I always say, daily he loads me with his healing, right? Daily he loads me with everything that I need for the day. He loads me with his benefits. That means I have everything that I need for today to function in this day. I have enough gas in my car to get to where I need to go. I have enough food to feed myself and my family. I have enough bandwidth to do whatever I need to do when it comes to my business. I have enough creativity to create whatever it is that God has called me to do. I have enough bandwidth. And that's how you got to look at it. You got to look at it as you have enough bandwidth to be everything that God has called you to be. You came equipped with everything that you need to function in this world. How do I know that? Because he said he's given us all things pertaining to life and godliness. So we have everything that we need to fully be whoever it is that God calls us to be, right? Your gifts are perfect, right? Your gifts are perfect. The only thing you're doing is perfecting and growing in your character and in your integrity so that you can grow into your gift, right? And be able to function in whatever it is that God called you to do at the level of excellence that he wants you to, right? Low self-esteem affects your identity, right? When you are aware of your identity in Christ, it changes everything, right? It changes pretty much how you see the world through your eyes. Because when you understand your identity in Christ, you understand that there's some things you have in a extra ability to do because God has given it to you, because he's placed it on the inside of you. So you might be able to do something, right? You might have two people doing the same thing, right? But because your identity is in Christ, you might be able to do something and go and be able to, like, I'll use an example, something basic, like taking out the garbage, right? You might have two people that take out the garbage, and one person might just take it out and just toss it to the side. And then you have another person that may feel like, you know what, I'm going to take this. Not only am I going to take this garbage out, I'm going to wash the pail. I'm going to put a new liner in it. And I'm going to put it back where it was, right? Because your identity is you operating in something other than what you're doing. That means who you are or who you are aware of. The more aware that you are, let me just slow down and say it again. The more aware you are, the more aware, I'm getting tongue tied, of the more aware you are of who you are, then how you do even the basic functions changes, because your identity is different. You're a believer. So because if you're a believer, you may do things a little bit differently, because in your mindset is, I want God to get the glory out of this. Somebody else might just feel like, yo, I'm just going to do it. Oh, well, I don't care. But you do it differently, because you're looking at the fact that everything that you do, you're doing to the glory of God. So if I'm taking this trash out, I'm going to do it to the glory of God, because my identity is my identity is in Christ. And because my identity is in Christ, how I do things, everything I do is shaped around that mindset, right? When it comes to self-worth, right? Self-worth refers to the value and respect an individual assigns to themselves, right? God has assigned a value to you. I have a thing on my cover, and I said, it's important to keep the value. Hold on, let me say. I don't want to say it. I don't want to misinterpret exactly how I said. I said, to make the most out of your life, you must keep the vision of eternity in your mind and the value of it in your heart. I'm going to say it again. To make the most out of your life, you must keep the vision of eternity in your mind and the value of it in your heart, right? It is the belief and perception of one's own intrinsic worth and the recognition that they deserve love, respect, and happiness. You have to know that you deserve love, respect, and happiness, right? Happiness is circumstantial, right? Here's the thing. We always say, well, I want to be happy. I just want to be happy. I just want to be happy. That is your choice, right? You make up the components that you need to make yourself happy, right? But when you are filled with joy, joy is everlasting, right? Joy is not based on external circumstances. Joy is solely based on Christ and Christ alone being in your life, constantly filling you with his love, filling you with his grace, filling you with his mercy, and your gratitude is the joy that you feel is your expressed gratitude towards what it is that he put on the inside of you, right? When you think about self-worth, it's not dependent on external factors like achievements, possessions, or even social status. If you have narrowed down your self-worth to external things, right? And sometimes when you look at people who may have more monetary things than you can start to negatively say to yourself, right? And this is why you got to cast down every imagination and every high thing that exalts itself above the knowledge of God, and bring into captivity every thought, right, into the obedience of Christ. So sometimes when you are facing when you're going through these thought process and you start to look at yourself as less than or even better than, right, you have to realize and constantly remind yourself that your self-worth is not dependent on external factors or achievements, right? It is rooted in the inherent worth of being who you are, right? Self-acceptance involves accepting yourself with all your strengths, your weaknesses, your flaws, and your imperfections, right? It means recognizing that nobody is perfect and embracing oneself as a whole, right? When you start to see that, you know what, like I said before, when you begin to accept, like to me, there was a TikTok video that was going around. It says, I don't know if it was, I forgot who the lady was, but she was saying something about, I love who I am. I like the way I learn, and I like how I learn from my mistakes or something like that. And I know some people might have looked at that video and probably said, well, that just kind of sounds arrogant. But in all actuality, what she's saying is she has embraced everything that makes up who she is, right? I have embraced everything that makes up who Nadira is, the good, the bad, the ugly. Embracing doesn't mean not changing in areas that you need to change. Embracing just simply means you understand that it's something that you have to work on. We have to learn how to start giving ourselves a break, right? Sometimes we are so gung-ho on trying to be a certain way, trying to meet a goal of being a certain way, instead of instead of pacing ourselves, right, through change. Because I think when you pace yourself through change, it sticks a little bit better, right? Because now you're not doing it for other people. You're not doing it to impress anybody. You're not doing it to show somebody that you're better than or less than. You're doing it because you yourself want to become more aware of who God created you to be, so that you can function as an individual in this society, right? So you can function at the level of capacity that God created you to be, right? Another thing is what I was talking about in the first segment, we was talking about boundaries, right? Well, healthy boundaries, right? Having a sense of self-worth allows, right, individuals to set boundaries in their personal and professional relationships, and enables them to prioritize their well-being and assert their needs and wants without feeling guilty or unworthy. How many times have you felt guilty for not setting for you ever look back and said, dang, I probably should have did that different. I should have set more boundaries. I should have did this better. I should have did that better, right? You have to learn the reason why you set boundaries. Boundaries are there to protect you. Boundaries are there to teach people how to interact with you. If they want to interact with you, then you have to interact with me based on this standard that I have set for myself, right? It doesn't mean that you're being cocky or anything like that. It means that you're protecting your emotional and your mental well-being, right? You're protecting yourself from being used and taken advantage of, because I have learned, people will use you up and toss you to the side and dispose of you like you ain't nothing, right? And go on to the next person, right? And do the exact same thing. And you can't really get mad at them because people are who they are. You have to take the time and set boundaries for yourself and say, you know what? Yeah, I learned my lesson in that area. I won't be doing that again. And that's how it got to be. You have to set boundaries to protect your well-being. So you're not frustrated when you feel like things are not going the way you wanted to, and you're looking like, dang, you ever worked on a job and your boss, when they do like mandatory overtime, and you're always the one that's everybody else always say, oh, I got stuff to do. I'm not gonna be able to make it. I ain't gonna be able to. And then you're the one that always gets stuck having to do the mandatory overtime, or you're the one that's always having to stay late, have to come in early, because you have not set boundaries. You have made people, and it's kind of like a sense of false humility, where you make people think that, oh, because I'm available and I'm just this free spirited person, you could just do whatever you want. I'm just being humble. No, it's not being humble when you don't set boundaries. Being humble means that you understand that you are worth it. And you have to have time to take care of yourself, because if you don't, you will not be able to function in whatever it is that God called you to do, because you will allow people to overstep their boundaries, right? And use and abuse you, right? That's how we wind up in narcissistic relationships, right? When you are a person that is sensitive to the needs of other people, it is highly possible and more than likely accurate that you're always going to run into somebody that's a narcissist, right? Because narcissists are attracted to people that see themselves, their value based on what somebody else does. That's why you got to be careful when people come and they're just constantly overwhelming you with what we say in the love bombing, because most of the time people are narcissists wrapped up in love bombing, right? And their whole goal is to get you feeling like, oh, they love me. And the whole goal is they have their intent and their purpose on what they want to do and why they came into your life. And if you don't set boundaries, then what happens is people come in and they get what they need from you, and they just toss you like you're used goods, right? Another thing we can do is we can avoid comparing ourselves, right, to other people, right? We are good. Paul said, don't compare yourself among yourself, right? Why? Right? Because when you're comparing yourself to other people, you don't know what people have gone through to get to where they are. You don't know, right? You don't know what they had to give up. You don't know what it is they had to sacrifice. You don't know what they had to do to get to where they are. But when you're comparing yourself to another human being, you wind up getting caught up in this thing where you start feeling like, oh, I'm not good enough. And you go through these cycle of thoughts because you're looking at another person, right? You have to compare yourself to the word of God, right? And look at yourself. Look at yourself. How I don't compare myself with anybody but myself. How was I last week? How was I last year? I'm a total different person than I was last year. I'm a total different person than I was last week, right? Not at the core, because the core of who you are is the same. But there are things about who you are that make up your thought process, that make up the thing, your reason for doing what you do, that causes you to change. The more, it's almost like that saying that says, when you know better, you do better, right? Self-care. Self-care is so important, right? Self-care is when you're able to nurture, right, and put into practices of nurturing you, right? Engaging in activities that promote physical, mental, and emotional well-being, reinforcing the belief that you deserve love, care, and attention, right? Say that with me. I deserve love, care, and attention. Let that sink in. I deserve love, care, and attention, right? And when you begin to nurture yourself with that mindset of I deserve love, care, and attention, you will #be good to yourself, right? Because you will teach other people how to treat you when you are good to yourself, right? When you're good to you, you teach other people how to be good to you, right? When you treat yourself a certain way, you teach other people how to treat you a certain way. When you don't tolerate certain things in your life, you teach other people what you will and will not tolerate, right? And last but not least, and then I'm going to close with this. Positive self-talk or affirmations, right? Pay attention to your self-talk and cultivate a positive internal dialogue, right? So that you can challenge these negative thoughts and self-critical beliefs and replace them with affirmations and self-compassion. This is why I did the 31 days of becoming, because it takes 21 days to change a habit. But when you go an extra 31 days, you are reaffirming, right, the things that you have noticed or that you see or want to see in your life. It becomes an internal dialogue. And what happens is you begin to see yourself as what you're saying to yourself. I began to change my thinking and my thought patterns when I started to become aware of my self-talk. What am I saying to myself? There's a video on TikTok. It's funny, and they were like in the mirror, and they were like, what were they saying? They were saying something about I forgot what it was, but they were in the video and they were like had their hands and everybody was dancing and stuff like that. What you say, it doesn't matter what other people scream in your ears, what you say to yourself privately. What are you saying to yourself when you get up in the morning? What are you saying to yourself throughout the day? What are you saying to yourself before you go to bed? It does matter. It does matter, because the more you work on your internal dialogue, and the way you work on your internal dialogue is by affirmations and the word of God, right? Beginning to proclaim whatever it is that God has already spoken about you, right? He said his thoughts about you are good and not evil. So you don't have to wonder, well, man, does God really, is it in the will of God for me to have? No, his thoughts towards me are good and not evil. So I don't have to walk around feeling like I don't care what circumstances brought me into this world, whether your parents made a mistake or never intended on having you here. The fact of the matter is that you made it here means that God has a purpose for you. So guess what? His thoughts about you, even you, are good and not evil. No matter what circumstances, he's already taken into account all the things that were going to be involved in getting you in this earth. And it still didn't change his mind about the plan that he has for you. So make sure that you are talking positively to yourself and that you are not comparing yourself, right? And that you're building healthy boundaries. Learn how to accept the person that God created you to be, and work on your becoming aware of your values. And you will start to see your esteem become higher, right? Your esteem that was once low will begin to increase higher, and you will have a higher way of esteeming the person that God has created you to be. Did you enjoy yourself tonight? I hope so. My goal is, every time I come on a sisterhood check-in, my goal is to be a blessing to you, whether I have guests or whether I'm here alone. My goal is to bless you with the information that I bring. If I have helped you in Sisterhood Check-In, make sure you put it in the comments and let me know how much Sisterhood Check-In has blessed you. I am going to be implementing something new, guys. If you guys want to be a part of the Sisterhood Check-In dialogue, I am going to open up opportunities for open forums. So while we're either with guests or while I'm alone, if you want to become a part of the Sisterhood Check-In broadcast, starting next week, I will start implementing the link in the comments that you can click on and join me in a conversation with me about life, business, and godliness. So I look forward to being able to try this new opportunity. I want to do something different. So in other words, and also too, if you have a testimonial that you would like to share here on the Sisterhood Check-In broadcast, feel free to send me an inbox and I'll take a look at your and we can set up a time frame where we can discuss some of the things that you have gone through and see if you are a good fit for our show. Until next time, thank you guys so much for supporting Sisterhood Check-In each and every week. I appreciate, I don't never take it for granted for each and every one of you that watch me live and watch me on a replay. I hope to continue to be a blessing to you. Make sure you go to my website. I have it's summertime, guys, and I don't know about you, but sometimes we like sundresses and something that's really cool to wear so that we can be able to get around. Make sure you guys go to my website, www.womenofproverbs.com, and click on online store and go through my store. I have a ton of things from tote bags to accessories. I've just got a whole bunch of new things in, and I cannot wait to see you be able to wear some of the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs apparel, new merchandise. My goal is don't just say it, wear it. So if you are a Proverbs 31 woman, or if you feel like you have a wife or a woman in your life that you want to bless with an affirmation through the apparel, the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs apparel, make sure you visit my website at www.womanofproverbs.com. Also, don't forget, if you want to download the free 31 Days of Becoming ebook, make sure you go to the website also and click on it. I have so many amazing things on my site. I have Amazon finds. If you want to take a look at some of my most picked Amazon items, make sure you go on the website with womanofproverbs.com. Check it out. Look at some of my amazing, I'm a techie girl, and I like things that make my life easier, whether it's, whether I'm at home or work. I love gadgets that make my life easier. So make sure you guys check out my Amazon finds and go through it and join the hashtag Be Good to Yourself. Take some time and be good to yourself and join. If you have not already joined the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs Wisdom Clinic, make sure you also go to the website and click on Join the Sisterhood and join us in the Wisdom Clinic as we continue to give advice on health, wealth, and godliness. Tuesday, we are going to, today's Friday, so Sunday, make sure you join us for Dinner with the Coaches with my amazing partner, Thomas Taylor III, visionary coach of Tail Your Dreams, where we're going to be continuing our discussions around life and business, helping you become the best version of you. Don't forget to also join us back again for those that have joined us on Wellness Tuesdays. Wellness Tuesdays will be back again this Tuesday with our amazing special guest, Clinton McCoy, where we're going to be discussing all the myths around weight loss and eating. So join us Tuesday at 7 p.m. I look forward to seeing you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you guys have an amazing weekend.
May not be physically with you.
They're in your church.
But I am sitting next to you.
Different face.
Different name.
Same story, though, that goes like this.
I've done some terrible things in my life,
Some of them I chose to do.
and I own these choices.
But others, I just feel like I was swept up in a series.
It's been a series of circumstances that didn't involve my will.
They just sort of happened to me.
I've become the culmination of those choices and circumstances.
So I guess I just need to say it.
I really
Really need some help.
Hello, my name is Thomas Taylor III, CEO of TailorYourDreams.com. I actually help individuals expand their vision past their current reality so they can live the life that they dreamed of. If that's you, you can reach out, you can hit me up, and actually have a free consultation. But until then, go ahead and make it a great day.
Hi, I'm Nadira, author, life, and business coach, and founder of the Becoming a Woman of Proverbs Wisdom Academy, and also the founder of the Sisterhood Check-In podcast. I help women take their life experiences and turn them into life lessons for others. Book a call with me at www.womanofproverbscoaching.com, and I'll see you on the other side.